Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Movies change a lot from their initial screenplay to what actually is filmed. Personally, I love hearing about earlier drafts and things that they decided to change. It's especially fascinating to hear about the original versions of something that has such a huge pop culture impact, like Star Wars. Now, as I've said before, I'm more of a Star Trek guy, and I've pointed out the silliness of Star Wars before. But as I also have said, and people seem to ignore, is that all the things we love are silly. From a certain point of view, that is. But sometimes even the goofiness of the things we love used to be even more goofy. Writer and editor J.W. Rinsler, while looking through the Lucasfilm archives for material to put in Star Wars production and nonfiction books, came across the original rough draft for The Star Wars and thought that it would be great to adapt it to comics. And that's what we're reviewing today. Star Wars, when it was initially conceived, was only as one film. While everything here says that it's George Lucas's original rough draft, it'd probably be more accurate to say that it's the third or fourth draft. Star Wars' most original concept was apparently a short summary called The Journal of the Whills that featured that legendary of all Jedi, Mace Windu. No doubt with famed actor Samuel L. Jackson in the role. As the drafts expanded, more Star Wars-y elements were added, and the title changed to The Adventures of Luke Starkiller, as taken from the Journal of the Whills, Saga 1, The Star Wars. And from there, it became The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Learned How to Make a Damn Proper Title for Their Story, as taken from the Journal of the Whills. Yeah, naturally, that just got shortened to The Star Wars. On the artistic front, it was decided that it would be best if instead of the designs that were actually used in the film, they'd go back to the very original production design ideas for stuff like how stormtroopers looked, ship design, and etc. Which is really kind of brilliant. It really does create a sense of an alternate reality, something that's so close to what you're familiar with, but different enough that it feels new. At the same time, place and character names that got cut from the finished version of A New Hope got recycled in later films and stories, so you end up seeing things that are a bit different in the original version. So let's dig into The Star Wars #1 and see if the original version of this tale from a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away really should have stayed there.
Linkara's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Brodsky, you're not the smartest. Life out, you're not an artist. Anyone who's had a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's a man punch, wears a birdie hat. Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where'd he purchase that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazon and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
Not really much point in looking at the individual covers, since 1, they're all awesome, done in a Struzan-esque style by Nick Runge, and mimic the general style of Star Wars posters, and 2, I'm reading from a trade. This may not be the Star Wars everyone knows, but it's still Star Wars, so we begin with an expository crawl. Until the recent Great Rebellion,
The Great Rebellion.
the Jedi Bendu were the most feared warriors in the universe, despite the fact they were called Jedi Bendu. Want to make your fearsome organization sound silly right off the bat? Add more syllables to their name. For 100,000 years, generations of Jedi perfected their art as the personal bodyguards of the Emperor, and every year they were discouraged from unionizing. They were the chief architects of the invincible Imperial Space Force, which expanded the Empire across the galaxy, from the celestial equator to the farthest reaches of the Great Rift. And yet they had the crappiest postal system in the universe. Now, these legendary warriors are all but extinct. Damn, I knew we shouldn't have cut down Endor's forests. That's the Jedi Bendu's natural habitat. One by one, they have been hunted down and destroyed as enemies of the new Empire by a ferocious and sinister rival warrior sect, the Knights of Sith. Don't you mean Sith Godo or something? While a spaceship flies into view, as you do in Star Wars, we cut to the fourth moon of Utapau. There, a family is living in a fairly desolate environment in what appears to be a crashed spaceship and some makeshift shelters. A boy runs inside and informs his father that they've found us. However, the father is too busy whipping his son with his belt. I'm not even kidding, look at this. And tells said son, Deke, to continue concentrating on the problem. The problem seems to be a Rubik's Cube. And Jedi training is hard. Anakin, how many? Yep, the older son is named Anakin. And yet, strangely, he's still on a planet with lots of sand. Only one this time, Dad. A Banta 4. Good. They must think this night is something special. We may not have to repair that old bucket after all. Prepare yourself. Let's open up the sweet corn stand and make us some money. Deke also wants to join in, revealing the Rubik's Cube is now glowing. The dad asks if Deke has solved the problem. I think it's the Corbett dictum. Ah yes, the wisdom of Bill Corbett. Made my dog watch Scooby-Doo to shame into some focus with his life. When are you gonna solve a mystery? He licked himself in response. There is truth with these Jedi bendy dolls. What is without. Okay, that sounds kind of deep, assuming I'm interpreting this correctly. That reality is all that's outside of our bodies, but doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of meditation and contemplating and thinking and stuff, since none of that is occurring outside the body? Sir, I've outmarked Anakin in 12 disciplines. I'm as good. All right, son, get your gear. Yippee! Are we sure Anakin and Deke weren't accidentally given the wrong names? He even looks like Anakin from The Phantom Menace. Anyway, the three head out and see that the ship from the Expository crawl page has landed. The father suspects that the ship landed there to set a trap for them since there's no sign of him actually leaving his ship. He decides to confront the pilot head-on and goes off on his own, figuring it's better to go in rather than wait for their opponent to set up an ambush. Or you could use that gun the kid is carrying to shoot at them from a distance. You know, the reason why guns exist in the first place? To hit a target from far away? It's a moot point anyway, since the owner of the ship had indeed left it and snuck around back to the kids. The Sith slices at Deke and knocks him away. Surprising that that's all it does, considering what we've seen lightsabers do in the movies. But even more surprisingly, we see that Anakin is wielding a red lightsaber of his own. I'm sure there's some obscure reason why Sith only use red lightsabers in the proper continuity while the Jedi get all the other colors, but it seems kind of goofy to me. You'd think the people embracing emotion and passion would be the ones to have an entire rainbow of colors at their disposal. The Sith has his standard issue evil mask that even has tusks coming out of the mouth. They're not there for intimidation value, the Sith just like having a convenient beer bottle opener. Anakin fends off the Sith long enough for the father to return and, well, pull a Darth Maul on this guy. It's not surprising really, it's not as if the Sith had a leg to stand on. What? The dad is naturally saddened upon seeing the Deke dead, the dead Deke, and while the artwork by Mike Mayhew is excellent in conveying both action and emotion, sometimes the somewhat photorealistic faces make me scratch my head. Like here, where it looks like the father is about to, well...
What I'm about to say might sound strange, but I think we should eat this corpse.
And then there's Anakin's expression here, which seems less sad and more pouting, which I suppose would make him match his namesake. They burn Deke's body and take the Sith ship. Son, pilot a course for Aquilae. We're going home? We both need a rest. We both need a vacation. Set a course for the Atlantic City planet. We cut to Alderaan, the capital of the new galactic empire, where a group of Star Destroyers are flying over the plaza of the Daters. daughters? And yes, those are indeed Star Destroyers flying low over a plaza. Alright boys, let's impress our Emperor! Superiors, break left and roll! Actually, Star Destroyers were originally fighter craft. I do wonder about the aerodynamics of that. It's essentially a big metal paper airplane, or flying Doritos. Anyway, while they strafe the assembled at the plaza, the Emperor is preparing to give a big speech. The Emperor in this version is this Sinestro-looking dude, which I suppose makes more sense. I've never understood how the Emperor in Star Wars got away with spending all his time in black robes and cloaks and capes all day. He really made speeches and attended political dinners and stuff in a hood? Dude made an appearance at Get Out the Vote dressing like he was a wizard at a Renaissance fair? Anyway, the speech is about their new campaign. We must conquer the Aquilaean systems, last refuge of the outlawed and vile sect of the Jedi. Boo! You're not funny! Bring out Figrin Dunn and the modal nodes! I have personally asked the Aquilaeans to accept the Treaty of Alliance. During the long period of negotiation, they have decided only to be undecided.
I hate these filthy neutrals, Kif. With enemies, you know where they stand, but with neutrals, who knows?
As everyone celebrates the announcement of the annexing of the territory, including proto-stormtroopers in the crowd that actually resemble some alternate Halo armor, one person walks away and we soon find him at a bar. His name is Whitsun, which I'm sure is supposed to be pronounced White Sun, because poor literacy is the will of the Force. And before anyone says it's just a matter of stylizing it, bear in mind that this universe features people named Skywalker and Starkiller. You don't need to stylize things after that. Anyway, Whitsun is going up to the fur-coated guy named Bail Antilles. And while I should be focused on their conversation, I'm just sort of curious what sort of classy bar has a lounge sofa like that where you can apparently sunbathe. Anyway, Antilles tells Whitsun that the Empire has grounded all spacecraft, so his trade frigates aren't going anywhere. Whitsun realizes that the Empire isn't waiting for this alliance treaty to be done with before they make their move against the Aquilaeans, which I thought was the entire point of the Emperor's speech a second ago. However, before they can talk anymore, Antilles is arrested, as are all other Trade Guild officers. Before he's taken off, Antilles recommends Whitsun go ask a pirate for help. Ooh, there's a thought. Anyone ever tried to make a lightsaber hook hand? We cut over to Darth Vader. Behold Darth Vader. No mask, but similar fashion stylings, plus red eyes. He's in a room with Governor Hodak. Hodak, who has been put in charge of the Aquilaean region for when the Empire conquers it. He wants Vader to lighten up a bit, but someone else in the room objects. No, dear God! It's the Absorb-a-Lot from Love and Monsters! Lucas, we're sorry about not accepting Jar Jar Binks. We will take him over Love and Monsters! Good lord, you sapient lump of mashed potatoes! Put on some pants! Well, I'm hurling insults at the guy, but he's not actually that annoying or anything. He just reminds me of awful, awful television. Anyway, the governor is celebrating the coming conquest and how much power it will gain them, but the talking pile of lard says he shouldn't be so confident. Don't underestimate the armies of Aquilae. They are led by a Jedi. And you know them, their stats are always far too up. Someone should really nerf them. Darth Vader doesn't believe the Jedi still exist. General, I've told you about our Supreme Tribunal member, Vantos Call. He worries a lot about legends and myths. I mean, he actually believes in the Helix fossil. Weirdo. General Skywalker is no myth. When I first arrived at court, he was first bodyguard to the Emperor. It was he who led the Jedi Rebellion. Sieg Darklighter led the rebellion. So the Emperor would have you believe, but I was there. I was there, Lord Vader. I was there when the courage of Jedi failed. He's there, all right. I can sense it. Mark my words, Aquilae will not easily be conquered. Is it just me, or has this dialogue been reversed? Shouldn't Vader be the one who can sense a presence and believe an old enemy is still alive, and the overweight bureaucrat be the one disbelieving of anything? We cut to Aquilae itself, where we are naturally greeted by the most important part of Star Wars mythology: trade negotiations. I kid, actually. It is about that, but in this case, it's political and economic stuff relating to the coming war. The king of Aquilae, Chaos, is hoping to get trade support from large companies to economically support them if war breaks out. But the Chrome companies fear imperial trade restrictions. No more Chrome? How will Google survive? One guy demands that the king just sign the damn treaty, and that General Skywalker has no chance of mounting any resistance against the Empire. However, Skywalker himself walks in, and he's actually kind of badass looking. His uniform resembles the Star Trek uniforms from Wrath of Khan and whatnot, just white and with a cape. I want this outfit! And now you understand my fashion choice for this episode. Plus, in Star Wars, everybody wears capes. He says they have to make a decision about this. General Skywalker, war is a serious business. A deadly business. It is? Since when? Senator Nash, procrastination... Wait, Senator Nash?!
Yes, Linkara, it is I, Imperial Senator Nash.
When the hell did this happen?
Tuesday. I decided it was time for a change in profession. This way, I will be in a galaxy far, far away from Florida.
So now you work for the Empire. And the dark side of the Force.
Indeed, young critic. And now, you will die.
Oh, Jesus! Ow! God!
You okay?
I feel like a rainbow.
Have you approved my defense measures, Tarkin? My sacerdotal colleagues and I believe an actual war with the Empire is still only a remote possibility. Sacerdotal? Yeah, here's your vocabulary lesson for the day. Relating to priests or the priesthood. So Grand Moff Tarkin in this version is the Reverend High Defense Secretary? On the plus side, if he's still played by Peter Cushing in this, that means he's overly qualified to fight Dracula. I'm really curious how they decided to change all the names around for the final version of the film. Did they take all the names from the original script and put them in a hat, and each actor picked out what they were actually going to become? The king says he'll make a final decision on the treaty soon enough, but suddenly his two kids, Biggs and Windy, seriously? Before becoming a king, were you the weatherman? Run inside and inform him that his other daughter, Leia, is leaving and they need to say goodbye to her. And indeed, we cut to the farewell of Princess Leia, who's still sporting the bun hair in this version. She's going off to college, which probably explains how a princess suddenly hooks up with a rebellion, and everyone wishes her well. The semester will be over before you know it. You'll have a grand time, Leia. There are so many new things to learn, like those new holographic cell phones. How do you kids keep up with all this technology these days? I wish I were going, but my entire fraternity was expelled after we turned that astromech droid into a beer keg. May the force of others be with you all. When you say it like that, doesn't that just mean, may you possess other people's guns? We cut to the Aquilae war room, where General Skywalker is trying to figure out if the Empire is going to attack soon. I don't know. It doesn't feel good. I've got a feeling about this, but I don't know if it's a bad one yet. Anakin and his father suddenly storm into the war room, where we see that the Aquilean guards are pretty crappy against their masterful tactic of shoving them. However, we finally get a name for our Jedi friend, Kane Starkiller. Turns out Starkiller and Skywalker are old pals, and Kane had been assumed dead. Anakin, in the meantime, seems to have his eyes set on a redhead that he no doubt hopes to show his lightsaber to later. They head to a meeting room to talk privately, discussing how the Empire has been chasing them halfway across the universe. Kane wants Luke Skywalker, and yes, the one who looks like Obi-Wan is in fact Luke Skywalker, to train Anakin as his Padawan. Luke wonders why Kane doesn't just finish the training himself, since he was always a superior Jedi. I'm too old, Luke. I can't go on. You must finish it. But I'm old too. Look at how white my hair and beard are. For crying out loud, Luke, you bleached your hair for a cosplay and didn't realize the material was permanent. What kind of talk is this? That's not the Starkiller I remember. I'm not the same Starkiller! I'm much more restrained and composed! However, punching his arm in the glass table has caused it to, explode. Kane tears off part of his shirt to reveal that he is, in fact, a cyborg. There is nothing left of me but my head and right arm. Well, that's okay. That just means you're the remake RoboCop. You can still train him. Wait a second. A cybernetic knight in space with most of his organic material removed while having to fight a group of evil space wizards? Holy crap! George Lucas created ROM Space Knight! Actually, it's pretty clear from this revelation that Kane can't train him anymore. I mean, for crying out loud, just hitting a glass table caused his arm to explode. That's not a good sign for your cyborg. Kane reveals that he's dying and he keeps losing control, hence his little outburst there. But yeah, because of this, he's in no shape to train Anakin to become a Jedi bendy straw. The Jedi Bendu must survive. We must pass it on. Only a Jedi can stop the Empire. There is literally nothing else that could bring down the Empire. And so our comic ends with a guy running inside to inform Luke Skywalker that something big is approaching the planet, like an asteroid or solid comet. That's no solid comet. Doesn't really have the same ring to it, does it? This comic is actually pretty good. Obviously, there are still 7 more issues where I could be disappointed, and we most definitely will be coming back to this later in the year, but for now, it's got my attention. The artwork is expressive, and I love painted styles, especially when they're as detailed as this. The writing's not too bad either. I actually love the emotional reaction Kane had and the revelation of his cyborg nature. It's genuinely heartbreaking, though I would have preferred that if they were going to kill off a child so early in the story that it would have had more of an impact on him and Anakin. Hell, when you're one-upped on the importance of a child death to the story by Face Off of all things, there's something wrong. That being said, I am of course curious how much of this would have actually made it to screen had this script been used. Right now, there's a lot of little bits of plot, but very little character revealed. However, it is still the first issue, and it does a decent job of putting us into the story, though I admit that may be that because we have the experience of so much Star Wars already, we're familiar enough with the material that it makes it easier to ease into. Next week, we go from the beginning of one series to the end of another, with Batman Jazz. Look, Kane, I'd love to train Anakin in the ways of the Jedi Bendu, but I have to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.